tactical advantages of sound modem digipeating. Now, I know some of you have heard about digipeaters and what they do. You all have heard the packets on 144.390 and of course on for APRS, and on the other packet frequency that's really popular, 050. And some of those are digipeaters. APRS digipeaters work slightly different from WinLink digipeaters. Just keep that in mind. But being a user-driven, operator-driven community, we thought this is a really important thing to bring to you, because you, with your sound modem, SignalLink, or other sound device, but SignalLinks and WinLink setup, can become a digipeater immediately. What's the advantage of that? It extends coverage. You can digipeat through up to 2 other digipeaters, and think about that. If, in our case, Lynn in Pomona is what, 28 miles away from me. If I'm 28 miles, I can't hit Dan NR6V in Northridge directly. But if Lynn wants to send a message to Dan, he can digipeat through me, through Robert's gateway, and then to Dan. Now, the 2 of them are connected peer-to-peer on a digipeater. So we've just covered the area, because Robert has a good connection to Dan NR6V. He's got a good connection to me, and I have a good connection to Lynn. Technically, in this, you don't have to use me at all. Lynn actually has a great connection to Robert, so they could use a digipeater directly, but up to 2 stations. So we could actually go around, if you think about it in terms of 90 degrees, we could do 180 degrees if we wanted to, right? Keep that in mind. So it extends coverage. We talked about there are different types of digipeaters, and they're not necessarily, the commands aren't the same necessarily. So one that works on one won't work well on the other, and vice versa. Just keep that in mind. And this is an exercise we did not too long ago. And the problem we ran into this originally was that some of our stations could hear the other stations and some of our stations couldn't. For instance, KN6BKT could hear everybody, whereas K6NHI-2 couldn't hear KD6PYD-2. They just couldn't hear each other. So we were trying to figure out what's an easy way to extend that coverage and do that. And digipeaters turned out to be the solution. And as it happened, there's a digipeating function built into sound modem. Now, there are tons of different digipeaters. Just keep that in mind. And you can get really elaborate. You can buy one for $300-400. You can build your own using a Raspberry Pi and programming it. But we're doing tactical communications, and we want to keep things simple and robust. And this is the solution we came up with. A couple of useful terms. Digipeaters, remember, that's a call sign plus a station ID. That's what your SSID stands for. It's a relay station or repeater. So in other words, you can be a repeater, an automatic repeater, if you will. A beacon is just a packet of information that's being sent. The path, and this is for APRS, remember, wide NN for most applications. For sound modem, that doesn't work. Sound modem is a very simple digipeater, and you have to address that directly. By the way, in APRS and WinLink, you can address any of the digipeaters that are available directly, right? On the APRS frequency, and you wouldn't want to send WinLink messages through there. On the national APRS frequency, it make a lot of people very mad, rightly so. But you can APRS beacon directly through N6EX-1. Just keep that in mind. But for tactical use, we want to use specific digipeaters, and usually everybody digipeats one round, and then you figure out who is the station everybody can hear, and they're the digipeater. In this case, KN6BKT-4 or K6OLI-4, and I'll show you how to set that up. 3 types of digipeaters, simple, and this is what we're talking about today. WinLink digipeaters essentially are RMS packet stations that have the digipeat enabled, and you can actually digipeat through that. So if I wanted to send something through Robert's gateway to Dan, I could use the digipeater that's in Dan's, in Robert's gateway, and Dan can actually connect with me peer-to-peer that way. Or we could connect two digipeters and access a gateway that one of us can't reach. That would be another option. And then a full digipeter supports wide NN for APRS, for BBSs, the old chat style systems, and of course, WinLink, and they can be customized. But that's not the topic for today. We want to keep things simple, and we want to make sure that you understand that you can become a digipeter and that this really works. UC7HO, sound modem for digipeter MCOM. Advantages, it's quick and easy to set up. You already have UC7HO, supports APRS and WinLink, and every packet station can become a digipeter instantly. But there's no wide NN support. So while it will work on APRS, if you address a specific digipeter, just keep in mind there, you can't enter wide N2-1 as far as I know, at least as far as we've tried. This is what we've just talked about. It extends coverage. And it's very simple to do. You go to your sound modem folder, and I'm sure you all know where that is located. You right mouse click on the sound modem. You open it with Notepad or Notepad++. And then on the right-hand side, let me just minimize this window so I actually see what I'm doing here. On the right-hand side, you find the AX25_A. That's your A channel. That's what we usually use with signal links. You go down to My Digicall, and you enter your call sign. Don't put in K6OLI-4. Your call sign. And if 4 isn't used, in the SSIDs, I think it was Robert's idea to call it -4. It's for the community. But you can certainly enter -2, -3, -12 if that's your shtick, or if -7 is your lucky number. They're different, and Robert K6YGF has pointed out there are different conventions. So 7 usually refers to a mobile station or a handheld in APRS, but it's completely up to you. You can look up SSID conventions on the web and see whether one of these fits. 4 is completely customizable. It's been working really well for us. And that's all you need to do. No other changes are required for this to work. And how to use it, and we'll give you some live demonstrations, and you're more than welcome to tune your radios and to Aries 501, which is 144.420. How do you do that? So you go to a packet peer-to-peer session.
Oliver, before you move on,
Yes.
We have a question from Scott in Auburn, Washington. Go ahead with your question, Scott.
Actually, a comment. I just wanted to remind folks that when you edit the INI file for sound modem, you want to have sound modem shut down because it saves the settings when you close it. So if you have sound modem open and then you go in and edit that file and then close sound modem, it's going to write over what you did. So make sure sound modem is not running when you do that edit.
Thank you so much, Scott. That's an absolutely correct reminder, and that's a great reminder too. So yes, you do want to do this before you start sound modem.
Oliver, YGF has a question about no changes in the persistence time. Is that correct? On the INI file.
You know, Scott, who just commented, and I had that conversation. You could change it, and 64 it would be a good thing to change. But we actually tried it out for this purpose. It actually didn't make a difference. So I'm thinking keep that easy, keep it at that. If we ever need to, we could certainly change that. Scott, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I probably say it. Really the persistence and time slot are really there for tuning a busy network. So if you've got a lot of stations all trying to use the same frequency at the same time, messing around with persistent slot time will actually help you out. But if you're not sending a lot of traffic, and you got to get everybody to agree to what they're going to set to, especially slot time, it gets to be a little bit difficult to manage that. If they were all fixed stations that were always on, you could do that. But if they're, temporary portable stations that you're setting up and taking down, it's probably more trouble than it's worth.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. And of course, Scott is the Scott is the authority on this. And whenever I have a question about any of these topics, I usually turn to him and, send him a desperate email. And, he's extremely patient and very, very kind in sharing his experience with us. And so it's been, we've had a lot of fun with this. So yes, I think one of the reasons why we say keep most of it set is, one, again, it's compatibility across, as Scott just pointed out. And two, most of the time we will be using this on a tactical channel and not on one of the national channels. So keep that in mind. So thank you so much, Robert, for that question. And it's easy to do. We can do this, people. So how do you do that? Peer-to-peer sessions. All of you have done these by now. You start your WinLink peer-to-peer session, and in the connection type, usually says direct when you connect to somebody direct. But in this case, let's say I want to talk to Lynn, KM6NAO in Pomona, but I want to go through Tom's station, KN6BKT-4. So that's what Tom would have entered in his INI file, saved it, and then started Sound Modem. That's it. That's all I have to do. And then I click start. And next thing you know, we're actually connected. So it's really, really a fun and easy way of doing this. That's all it takes. It is that easy. How do I do that? Through 2 hops? Same thing. I switch to Digipeater in the connection type up here. I enter the destination station, KM6NAO. And then I say, my first hop, I want to be KN6BKT-4. And my second hop, I want to be Robert, KE6YGF. And then the signal would go from me, K6OLI, via KN6BKT, get digipeated through KE6YGF4, and then to KM6NAO. That's the whole magic. That's how easy this is. And by using Sound Modem all across, it actually is extremely fast too. And hopefully we can demonstrate that live. And that's the WinLink part of it. That's it. Just think about it. You can actually go through 2-3 hops, and there are digipeaters here in areas where you could actually go to San Diego and have a digipeater in San Diego, digipede to, of course, we'd ask San Diego Aries first whether we could actually use one of their digipeaters, just keep that in mind. But you could digipede to San Diego, and from San Diego to Mexico, and then use the Pactor 4 modem to send it out. Just keep that in mind, what possibilities this opens. Yes, it's packet. It's not as fast as VARA FM, but it does have an important role to play in emergency communications. And Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, and just talking about performance there a little bit, we call these digipeaters or digital repeaters, but don't think of it as a repeater like a voice repeater where it's doing simultaneous repeat. These are actually store and forward. So the whole packet has to be received by the digipeater, and then the digipeater turns around and repeats that, which means there is going to be a substantial performance hit. It's going to slow down your time. And especially if you go through 2 digipeaters, so your packet leaves your station, has to be fully received by the first digipeater, then turn around and sent to the next digipeater, and then that one turns around and sends it to the destination station. So you are going to see much slower performance when you're running through a digipeater.
Scott, if you could also answer this question from Mark, KK6SMD. What about collisions with digipeating during heavy traffic?
Yeah, you're going to run into that. So Packet is utilizing CSMA, so it's collision sense, multiple access on the same frequencies. So we are looking to see if there's a carrier there before we send, and then when we see the carrier drop, we do a random time delay and then start sending our traffic. But it is going to happen. You're going to have collisions. The protocol handles that. It will automatically retry the packets. If you do experience collisions. But do keep in mind, the more people you have on the same frequency running at the same time, the higher probability you're going to have collisions. And so again, you're going to see some performance issues.
This is Jeff. If I could interject real quickly.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that during last year's statewide medical health exercise, we were using Packet through gateways for all the digital traffic on WinLink. And we did experience not so much. I mean, there were collisions for sure, but one of the bigger differences that we saw were station power. Some stations with lower power were not getting through because they were being stepped on by stations with much higher power. So that needs to be considered as well with the collision discussion.
Yeah, we call that, we actually call that the hidden terminal problem. So if you have a digipeater that's in a really good spot and it can hear a long distance around, you'll have a station quite a ways away, perhaps, who wants to transmit, and it listens for a clear frequency, and it hears a clear frequency because it can't hear the station all the way across the valley there that's transmitting right now. So you get this, what we call this hidden terminal. It's back there and not able to hear everything that's going on. So it starts transmitting at the same time as another station, and then you have collisions.
That's one of those reasons why for actual emergency communications, the way we run it, especially for the statewide medical health exercise, we want you to use this on the assigned frequencies with VoiceNet control, because that, believe it or not, cuts down on the collisions. If you have a fully automated system, the more stations you have coming on, the bigger the problem gets. But if you have VoiceNet control, you can make these tactical decisions on who gets to go relatively quickly and make sure there's a clear channel, and clear channels move traffic really, really quickly. So keep that in mind. Those comments by Jeff and Scott are very well taken, and they're very applicable to what we're doing. Understand that this is our view as Aries LAX Northeast, the tactical communications and moving a lot of traffic. We generally don't leave these things up and running 24/7. That's not what, especially the sound modem digipeater, is intended to do. If you want to read up on that, there are tons of great topics on reading materials, and we'll direct you to that through some of our post conversation that we're having on this. So let's go to the next step. So we've got WinLink digipeating covered. Easy to do. Oops. But how about using APRS beacons on the same frequency? Wouldn't that be super useful to actually know where all the other stations are? Well, yes, it would be. And it's just as easy to set up. You can, as I mentioned before, if you are on the national APRS frequency, you can put in the path of N6EX-1, which is just above Sierra Madre, or N6EX-4, which is near Santiago Peak to the south, where Darn 7 is located. And that works directly really well, especially if you want to send messages. It's probably a better idea to give it an APRS path if you know the other station can hear that. So you're not propagating it all the way into the Central Valley necessarily. And if you're on a tactical frequency, let's say Aries 501, where there are no other digipeaters or stations, then you could use that sound modem digipeater we built and go to KN6BKT-4, beacon once, and that lets everybody know where you're at, especially if he can re-beacon this. So just keep that in mind. You can get fancy, overlay the hospital service level, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 0, which are the ReadyNet color codes, and give people a color that way, or you can overlay a fire or a flood or any of the other fun little icons. You want to check enable APRS beacon. Just
Oliver,
a second.
before you move on, the position comment, if you, is that something you filled in?
The position, yes. Digipeater enabled. I just filled that in. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It could be, Oliver was here. It's just this you can do. You can fill in yourself. But the other thing I want to point out is enable APRS beacon. For what we're using it here, set it to 600 minutes or 700 minutes. Why? Because we want you to beacon manually. That cuts down on the collisions as well. If you manually beacon, not a problem. If everybody starts beaconing automatically every minute or so, we're going to have collisions all over the place. At 600 minutes, you only beacon when net control tells you to beacon. All right? All right, and let's see. That's it. That's it. That's the whole magic of it. So let's do a live demonstration, and let's see how we're going to get on with that. Wait. All right. Actually, just to be proper about this, I think we'll actually show people the live change in the, I can close this. We'll show everybody the live change in the INI file. So Scott, thank you for reminding me. So I go, in this case, I've got Sound Modem 110. I go to the folder, and how do you find that folder? Quick and dirty ways. You right mouse click on your icon, go to properties, and the folder information is right up here. You can just copy this. Cancel out of that, don't make changes. And just fill it in here. And there's your folder again, all right? Oops. All right, so here's your Sound Modem INI file. You right mouse click, you open with, you go to Notepad. And remember, we turned off Sound Modem. And just like we showed you, you find the AX25A channel. Here's the persistence value we talked about. Not gonna make any changes. And where it says My Digicall, should be empty on yours. You can enter K6 OLI-4, 4-3. And then you click, and this is important, see the little star up here? That says you need to save this before any changes take. So File, Save, and that's the whole magic. We start Sound Modem. Now, here's the thing. I don't need to run anything but Sound Modem on this. Let's just bring up Sound Modem. I don't need to bring up anything else but Sound Modem and keep this running with the radio connected and the SignaLink or other sound device connected. And it's a digipeater right there. As long as I have control over it, you know, I'm the control operator. Always double check your input and output devices, right? Don't want to have the USB headset to be the input and output device or the internal computer card here. That's all there is. Let's just restart this. Come on. All right, good clean signal. Is the channel clear? Mike, would you mind checking whether the channel is clear? I know you're already on there.
Oliver, we're on Aries 501.
That's correct.
Correct?
Aries 501, 14442. Thank you, Mike. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. All right. And you can see W2JCL-1 actually just sent a packet with his information. How would I find that? Well, we can use Pinpoint APRS. And remember, you go to Tools, Connect TNC. And Jeff, if you wouldn't mind sending your beacon one more time, please. All right. So you saw the beacon come in here, and there Jeff populated the site. So we know where he's located. Mike, would you mind beaconing, please? So this is Mike, located at Garfield. And this is how we can fill up the other information. Is there anybody else? I can look at the participants list here. Is there anybody else who would like to send a beacon? Tron, would you check, see whether people raise their hand?
I'd like to send a beacon too before I check with somebody else because I can't raise my hand as a host if that's okay.
That's okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sending a beacon now.
Thank you so much, Tron. And I saw Keith, KD6PYD. Of course, always happy to have you on. Go ahead. And there's Keith, KD6PYD, and he just popped up. And Tom, KN6BKT, are you up and running?
Yes, I am. Let me beacon now.
Go ahead. Excellent. So, Tron, are there any other people who would like to beacon at this point?
No hands in the participants window.
Okay, excellent. But now what you can see here is we've got an instant overview over where our operators are located. And because they're not constantly sending beacons, they're at hospitals. And again, my take is always when people ask, well, do you use APRS? I used to say, well, not for location position, not for location, because what am I supposed to tell the medical alert center? Verdugo Hills hasn't moved in the last 2 hours. That's just not information they can deal with. But this gives us an excellent overview over who's doing what. Robert, did you want a beacon or are you okay? K6YZF, I should say that. Now, the other thing that's important to understand here is...
Give me a second, all around.
Yeah, go ahead, Robert. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and beacon. And the same for Rob, K6YGF. Whenever you're ready, go ahead. The thing about this is understand that we cannot access any of the other assets on the other frequencies. The only assets we can access on this right now are the assets that are on the same frequency, unless, now it's sounding like a salesperson, unless you use something like Direwolf that can actually cross-repeat, and that's totally doable, and it's relatively easy to set up. And
Oliver, before you go on, there's a question from Savvy. I believe he wants to know how to beacon. Could you, on your APRS, send a beacon to the rest of us?
absolutely. I just need to figure out how to get past the bar up here. There you go, because every time I go up there, the bar, the Zoom bar comes down. All right, how do I beacon? I go to Tools. I made sure that Tools, connect my TNC. We already did that. And now I go send position beacon. And before I do that, actually, let's do that. All right, and you see, it almost immediately put me in here, right? Why do I see myself here? Because the signal went to KN6BKT4, and then it came back, and I actually read it. How do you set your position manually if you don't have a GPS? Super easy. You press the Shift button, and you left click, and you can add a waypoint, or you can set as my position. And the next time you beacon, that will be your position. All right? Super.
So that's a good way to beacon your position if you don't have GPS or something like that, right?
Yep. Maybe I should just demonstrate that. Let's say I'm going up to Verdugo Hills Hospital, right? I set my position up there. Oops, hold on. I need to scroll in a little bit. Shift, left click, set as position. Now the green blob tells me I'm up here, but I beacon down there. I could re-beacon. I would say, net control, this is K6OLI. I would like to re-beacon my position. Go ahead, OLI. There you go. And now it's updated everybody's map and they all think I'm at Verdugo Hills. Are there any questions about this so far? None? Okay. Okay, Savvy, go ahead.
Yeah, I seem to be having connect point to the sound modem. How do I do that again?
You seem to have a tough time connecting to your sound modem. All right, let's go through this real briefly. Go to options. Go to TNC. You want to select TNC type, network KISS mode. You want to go TCP IP address. It should be already 127.0.0.1. And the port you want to select 8100. By default in Pinpoint APRS, it's 8001. Please change it to 8100. You don't want 8001 for two reasons. The main reason being the forms in WinLink Express are actually also using port 8001. So every time you open a form, you have a port conflict. Direwolf by default actually uses port 8001. And that also creates issues with the forms. So in Direwolf, you also want to change this. And then click OK. Oops, was that too fast?
No, I'm with you.
Okay. And that port, let me double check, let me show you this again. That port 8001 corresponds with settings, devices. This port, the KISS server port 8001, those two ports are the ones that need to connect. Let me try and line those up. Can you see that? The one over here and the one over here. That's what gets those two programs to talk with one another. All right? And just, pardon?
I mean 8100.
Yes, 8100. All right. And as you can see, from K6OLI-2 via K6YZF-4, and you know, that kind of was re-beaconed. So just keep that in mind. The red ones are usually the other side of the conversation. No, that's my side, sorry. My side going out. I'm not quite sure why it takes K6YZF-4. Is that how I set it up? Yes, there you go. That's how I set it up. I could switch this over to KN6BKT-4 and Tom, you're up and running, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let me just change the color so you see the difference here. They go okay. And all I did was change that addressing, right? And I go tools, send position beacon. And that updated my color almost instantly on all of their systems. And it said from me, K6OLI-2, this time via KN6BKT4. Before it was via K6YZF. So I actually can pick whether I want to send it via Robert here, K6YZF-4, or via Tom, KN6BKT4. All right, that's it for APRS beaconing as far as I'm concerned right now.
Oliver, if you want to show one thing,
ahead.
how do you tell when the time when it was last beaconed? How fresh is the data?
Oh, one thing you can do, you can mouse over, and good point, thank you. Mouse over any of these icons and left click. In this case, I can tell K6YZF-3 was there 5 minutes, beaconed last 5 minutes ago. That's really useful to know. Let's say I assign a tactical call to him. Wawona Hospital. Okay. So now I can say, okay, when was the last time we got an update from Wawona Hospital? I can click on that 6 minutes ago. If I need an update now, I can say, hey, we haven't heard from you in an hour. Would you please send us another hospital status assessment? So great point. Thank you so much. I could also send a short message to Robert via KN6BKT2. So send message to K6YZF-3. Don't have to enter anything else. It'll go via RF. Please update HSL, right?
How are we updating the HSL, Oliver, on APRS here? Pinpoint APRS?
I'll show you in a second. Let me just send the message and I click send message. It sends the message. You can see the raw data right here. Event wire KN6 BKT-4, you can see that at the star. That means it was repeated by Tom's gateway. And Robert, did you receive the message?
Robert, you may be on mute.
We have a thumbs up.
Okay,
Thumbs
excellent.
up.
Thank you. So this is part of this short, again, this is Twitter for amateur radio. Just keep that in mind, right? And then Robert can react to this if he'd like to. But essentially the path went from me up here to Tom, back to Robert. That's the path we took. Does that make sense? All right, let's not get too complicated about this. All right, Savvy, question, go ahead.
Yes, I have 2 questions. So I fixed that, but I don't know how to do a, I don't know how to use a digipeater. Are we just using the sound modem and
Yes, yeah, sound modem needs to be running.
it is?
And then pinpoint APRS.
Yes, they are.
All right. And then let's go back into your options, because Tron just asked, how do you update your station icon? Let's do that at the same time. So you want to have your APRS call sign or SSID. This is 2 in this case. Remember, my digipeater is -4. Let's change this to 4. You can do a quick change here. Let's say we want to go to 0. We can do /0 and then hit enter. And that changes our icon up here. And then we can scroll through those icons as well. I can go back to 5.
To be clear, this is something we're just introducing now as using the capabilities within pinpoint APRS icons to those colors we could use to signal a hospital status level, right? So this is just convention that we're introducing now. This isn't a standard yet, right?
Just keep that in mind, and let's just keep on moving because I want to show the WinLink part of this. And we'll click OK. And that's it. So right now I'm still at status 3. Next time I beacon, I'll be at 4. Let's move on to the next part of this, the WinLink part.
The digipeater?
Yes, digipeater. Are you connected now, Savvy?
Yes, I am. I just see myself, however, but I don't know how to use a digipeater with just the sound modem.
Okay. Go back to options, and up here is where it says APRS path. That's where you enter KN6 BKT-4.
Okay.
And go ahead and send a beacon when you're ready. Don't forget, you need to tools, connect TNC first. All right. Next up, Robert, K6YZF, do you have WinLink running right now?
No, I don't. I don't have it running yet.
Okay, who's got WinLink running of the people that are on this list right now? Rob, K6YGF, do you have it running?
This is W2JCL. I'm up.
Okay, perfect. We'll do a peer-to-peer connection with W2JCL, and we'll just walk you through that through one hop. Jeff, what do you think? Shall we show people a quick direct connection, then 1 digi hop, and then 2 digi hops? What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Let's do that. So, sound modem is still running. We haven't changed anything in the set. Oh, Scott, KS6SC, you should be popping up here. I'm not sure why you're not. Double check your location, Scott.
Right, so one thing to keep in mind now, we are having more people on 501 and we don't want to avoid collisions, okay? So we want to keep hearing, listening, and Oliver, you're going to let us know when we can send our traffic?
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Tron, for keeping order. In that case, let's continue on. How do we do WinLink? Usually when you connect to a gateway, you choose packet WinLink, right? Let's do a peer-to-peer connection. You're in the field, you're trying to connect to another station. You go to packet peer-to-peer, you click open, you click unshare screen. Sorry, that happens. I need to move this down. There you go. Packet peer-to-peer. We open the session. And Jeff, you said you're up and running, correct?
That's correct.
To JCL. All right. Now, I don't have any messages for him, but Jeff could have a message for me. I'll go ahead and would call on the frequency W2JCL. This is K6OLI. I'd like to connect with you via packet peer-to-peer. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please do.
Thank you. And as luck would have it, Jeff actually had a message. And this is, by the way, the review pending messages window that Mike mentioned earlier. Super helpful. If I don't want to download this right now, I can just uncheck it and go download messages. And it says held back one message due to manual selection. Perfect, right? Let's keep that message in there because we could have downloaded it right now. But why do that? Instead, let's go and connect to Jeff via DigiPeter. We're still in the packet peer-to-peer session. Don't have to leave that. We go to DigiPeter. And we go to, shall we go via, let's go to
KN6 BKT.
KN6 BKT-4. Tom, is that okay if we go through you?
Tom,
Tom?
you're on mute.
You're muted, Tom.
Sorry about that. Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you so much. Same thing. All we did was change to DigiPeter. We added KN6 BKT-4 and we'll click start. Oop. Then the audio is increased.
While that's going on, Oliver, KM6KQ-1 says he's up too. He's
Excellent.
up also. Mhm.
Thank you so much, Mike. And again, same message. Let's download it this time around, just to show you that the speed isn't all that different if you're using sound modem all across. And keep in mind what Scott said earlier is a good point. It works like a simplex repeater on voice. You have to first store the message and then pass it on. But this is actually pretty decent in terms of speed if you think about what it is we're doing.
Oliver,
And
do
also-
you, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and keep in mind that we wouldn't be doing this unless we needed to.
Mhm.
This would be used in a situation where Oliver was trying to get around some sort of propagation obstacle and needed to use an intermediate station. Obviously, we wouldn't want to use this when we had a direct path.
Absolutely. It's not our primary choice. So good point. Good point. And I saw Savvy had a question. Savvy, stand by one. Let me just add one more time. Robert, K6YZF dash K6YZF. Is it okay if we add your DigiPeter to the mix now, knowing that it's running?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Now let's do the same thing. We'll just add K6YZF-4. I'm so used to typing 11, but 4, that's where the DigiPeter is located right now because Robert has his sound modem running.
Before you do that,
Savvy, you had a question?
please, could either one of the two digipeters actually show their sound modem application so we can actually see that hopping taking place from the sound modem update?
Yes, Savvy, they can, but here's the thing. It'll look exactly the same as here. The only thing that changes is the red and the black.
So,
Great.
so the sound modem window open, we all see it because we're all on that frequency right now.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I understand now.
And let me just
So-
send something here. Go ahead.
Greg,
comment?
KG6SJT, noted that you could also write and use script for each digi, then no typing would be needed to switch digis. Could you speak to how that would be used and why we would use it or not?
Yeah, Greg, if you want to do that, go right ahead. Let me finish this, and then we'll take questions and comments. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right, thank you. All right, same thing. We're going through KN6BKT4, then through K6YZF-4. So in other words, in order to bridge this short distance, because technically I'm still here, but in order to bridge this distance, we're going here first, KN6BKT4, then here, and then there, all right? This is what's happening on RF. So let's bring this back up. Click start. I'll bring up my sound modem so you can actually see this. Whoops. Oh. I guess they can both hear me pretty well, so
Yeah.
that's why but essentially you see it's getting digipeated by KN6BKT4, K6YZF4, so you can actually see the path it's taking. And we were just, the first time we did this, we were amazed at the speed. We messed around with this and we changed it up to Direwolf. Once you started using Direwolf, Direwolf to Direwolf seems to work better than Direwolf to sound modem, and sound modem to sound modem seems to work better than Direwolf to sound modem. So just keep that in mind. But I find these speeds absolutely acceptable. And this is the message being transferred here in the back. And of course, we haven't messed too much about with that, but you could use the higher speeds available in sound modem to do this. I'll show you that. Let's download that short message.
And while this is going on, I would just wanted to add that we've been talking with folks in the North Desert about how they could make a connection to the Mac. This would be one way to get short messages through if they had access to digipeaters that would get them around the mountain range.
Yeah, absolutely. And for us, we have a similar situation here that some of our hospitals are in the Whittier area, or Pomona is shielded. If you're down, the MAC is down here, Santa Fe Springs. They're shielded by these mountains. That might be a way to get around the mountains, especially if you have a station that has a control operator, but essentially is unattended. We could certainly do that. And just to show people who aren't from the area what we're talking about here, this is the San Andreas Fault right up here in that area. So High Desert District is in the Lancaster area. You know, Victorville, it's a very large and difficult to pronounce for a German area. But, you know, how do we get their signal down here? And this is one of the options that we've investigated, or are actively investigating, I should say. None of this is ever done, right? All right, we're almost done. They're still receiving.
So perhaps we could talk about what the use cases for this are. So you've been deployed and you want to send out a WinLink message. What is the kind of the checklist of going down what modes you use and why you would choose this mode versus others? Maybe Jeff could speak to that. Walk us through those of us who haven't gone through a deployment and had to choose so many examples to choose from.
Yeah, I would again go back to the statewide medical health exercise from last year. as Oliver just mentioned, we had hospitals in, and I'm losing the name, what Whittier. We had hospitals in the Whittier location that wanted to send WinLink traffic, but they were not able to reach us directly at the MAC through a radio connection. They needed to go around. There's a little bunch of mountains there, and this would give them a chance to do that. If we had a station, let's say that was sort of north of the MAC and north of Whittier, that could be seen by both of us, they could use that intermediate station to send their WinLink traffic through that digipeater. And as you can see from the map here, we have a few options right away. KN6BKT, if his digipeater were functioning near Rosemead, then he could serve as that intermediary, or KD6PYD, or perhaps even KD6YGF. I mean, if he seems to be far out, but if it gets us around the hill, then I think that's all we need. I mean, you can see from the example we just did with the 2 hops that it's really slow. There's a lot of handshaking going on here to get through 2 hops. If you can get this through 1 hop, then you're obviously doing a lot better. You saw the first message we sent through 1 hop was a little bit longer than a direct connection, but it wasn't too painful. 2 hops was pretty slow. So for me, this is going to be used in a case where a direct peer-to-peer connection is not possible, or if there's no intermediate gateway that could be used for storing and forwarding messages.
Yeah, and it's an excellent point. It's an excellent point that Jeff makes here. This expands your toolkit. Think of it that way. It's not something that would be your first go-to option. If you need to go around corners or maybe get across a mountain range, as Jeff just pointed out. And again, if you're in the northwest, you've got mountains to the south. There's quite a few locations here that have a really tough time hitting the MAC down here, right? So understand that they either can go north to an elevated location, or if there is a place here that can digipeat for them, that would be an option if they can't make a direct connection. If there is a direct connection, then you would want to use that. If there's a gateway, you want to use the gateway, because that's going to be your easiest option in a lot of cases. But what we have found is equipment does fail. You do want to have these options, and that's part of the personal development I think that we all want to do as and growing our options. And think about it, all this took to make this happen was a single line change in a software you're already using. That's really the true power of this. And by the way, that works with gateways just as well. Let me see. Let me close my peer-to-peer connection here. Let's see what I can. I probably need to make a change for the gateway, but I'll show you what the gateway side of things looks like real quick.
Robert's gateway might be up.
But he's on a different frequency.
Hmm.
And this is where the power of portable gateways comes in. Maybe you can have my KM6KQ digipeat actually through Robert K6YZF-4 into the gateway. Mike, would you be up for that? And we'll actually watch it live. And I'll probably have to change the port on this to make this work.
Yeah, run me through that, and I think I can do that.
Oliver, do you want to walk Mike through that step by step? And for the rest of us who don't know.
I'll just bring up and this is the portable gateway, by the way, that lives on this computer.
Yeah, I wanted to add while we're waiting here that the gateways that are installed in the area already, that would be mine at W2JCL-10, Robert's K6YZF-11, and Marvin's K6ZHY-10. If you're using Packet on any of those gateways, this digipeating is already enabled. So you could use those gateways as a digipeater for peer-to-peer, Or if you wanted to use them in their traditional role as a gateway, you could do that as well. But if the internet was down and those gateways did not have internet access, the digipeater option allows you to use those gateways as a transfer point, and the recipient doesn't have to log into the gateway to pick up their message. The message will still go peer-to-peer directly to the recipient, and the gateway would just serve as the sort of transition middle point, but wouldn't store the message in full.
Yeah, in fact, the WinLink wouldn't even see it. It's just handled straight through the sound modem or the gateway.
That's correct, and that's what's interesting. We were testing this last week with my gateway W2JCL-10. Actually, I wasn't even involved. Oliver was doing this just one afternoon, and I happened to see his traffic going through. It was showing up on my W2JCL-10 sound modem application, but it wasn't showing up as traffic on the gateway.
Just packets passing, yeah.
Exactly. The packets were just being picked up and passed through the gateway directly to the peer-to-peer recipient, and my gateway was really not doing anything. So it's just another. If you're asking yourself, there's an emergency, where are these digipeaters? Well, I can point you to 3 of them right now. They're the gateways that are currently installed.
Yep. Okay, Oliver, who am I sending what?
Okay, standby 1. Right now, I think we just want to need to do a connection, right? So let's just walk everybody through at the same time. If you want to connect to a gateway, you would go and select in your drop-down menu, Packet WinLink. You go to Open Session. And this is, by the way, the setup, excuse me, I had when I went through Jeff's gateway, right? But in this case, for Mike, he would enter KN6BKT-4, and I'm assuming you can see KN6BKT-4, right? You can hear Tom on frequency.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then up here, Mike would enter K6OLI-10, and of course that's after he changed digipeater first. Okay, if it's direct, this would all be grayed out. So you will start up here. I should start at the beginning. Digipeater. You want to connect to K6OLI-10, and you want to go via KN6BKT-4. Could add another one on here, but let's just keep it to 1 hop and be done with it. And then Mike, give me a chance to get out of this because I'm running this on a tablet on battery. So let me get out some of this so we can actually demonstrate it before you hit start, okay?
Alrighty, just yell on 501 when you're ready.
Actually, I can yell on here, right? Let me bring up RMS Packet, which is running right now. This is what RMS Packet looks like. Mike showed us that earlier. Go ahead, Mike, and connect.
Alrighty, starting.
And there you can see Mike calling out to K6OLI-10. Here you can see what it looks like on RMS Packet. So he's now going through a gateway. And Mike, please don't download any messages because it's going to take forever if you have anything waiting.
So Oliver, just so that I'm clear, so Mike started a new WinLink email message, right? And because you're opting to go through a gateway, it's just a regular WinLink message, not a WinLink peer-to-peer message, right?
That's correct.
And then he opened up a session, which is Packet WinLink, and he's sending this message to your gateway, K6OLI-10.
No,
right?
He's not sending it to my gateway. He's sending it through my gateway.
Okay,
Explain
now I've got
that.
some interesting things here. As it connected, it said it's not a valid peer-to-peer connection, so disconnecting. Incoming
because-
SID is invalid.
That's because you're doing peer-to-peer. You need to be in a WinLink packet WinLink session.
Oh,
on top, yeah, switch to
packet
packet WinLink. Mhm.
WinLink. Oh,
Yeah, so if I could explain the use scenario here,
Yes, please, Jeff.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Oliver, what I think is going on here is we have a station, KM6KAQ, wants to send a message to the broad internet. He knows that you have a gateway running on K6OLI-10, which is connected to the internet, but he can't see you. He can't connect directly to you at that K6OLI-10 gateway, but he can connect to KN6BKT-4, that digipeater. So what's happening here is this station is going to go from KM6KAQ, send his message through KN6BKT-4 digipeater into K6OLI-10's gateway, and then his gateway message will be sent out to the CMS servers and on to the broad internet. Do I have that correct, Oliver?
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely correct. And as you're saying this, I'm actually seeing that Mike is going through KD6PYD-4. And thank you so much, Keith, for being up and running. Keith, you also had a comment. Go ahead.
That's what I was going to mention, is that you went through my digipeater. That's all.
Yeah, but the beauty of it is it still worked because you made that change in your sound modem, right?
Yeah, and I left it. I just left it the way it is, and it seems to be working. Although the other day, it's just kind of interesting. I had a phantom redirect, and I have no idea why.
Well, sometimes there are beacons and whatnot on there, so you know that could be it.
Yeah, and Oliver, I've got mine set up for a W2JCL-4, so it's also setting up as a digipeater. So we've got -1 is, hey, here I am, this is me. -4 is a digipeater, and -10 is a gateway.
And think about this. Let that sink in for a little bit. How much power you, as the operator, bring to the table. And Mike,
Oh, I was going to say, speaking of letting it sink in a little bit, if we could take a couple steps back and kind of open it up widely to the group, see if you have any questions about use cases, specifics, some things.
John, give us 1 more minute, and Mike, go ahead and try that connection again the way it is, and let's see whether we can demo that, and then we'll take questions.
all right. I set it up for packet WinLink to K6OLI-10 via KD6PYD-4.
Sounds good. That's okay with you, Keith?
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much. Go right ahead, Mike.
All right.
And you can see Mike's calling in. My gateway is answering, welcome to K6OLI- and MCOM gateway for Aries LX Northeast District. And right now he's going through the entire traffic and handshake. And you see every time there's a star there, that means KD6PYD digipeated that. He's connecting to the CMS. There's some messages waiting
Oh,
for Mike.
shit. Oops. I think it's going to retrieve them, Oliver.
That's okay. In the meantime, how about we take questions? How about that? And that's, by the way, how a live gateway looks like. Are there any questions?
Doug here.
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
You've got sound modem running, and I saw it looked like you were running WinLink Express and Pinpoint APRS simultaneously. Do those guys argue over who gets dibs on the sound modem?
Not if you send your beacons on. The short answer is no. I wouldn't beacon on a regular basis, because if you're trying to do WinLink and it beacons in the middle of that, they probably are going to have an issue with that. So I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay, so if you're just on and receiving as traffic is occurring on the channel and we see it in the waterfall on sound modem, if it's an APRS packet I mean, is that data sent to both applications, the WinLink and the Pinpoint?
They both hear it. I think that would be the right answer. Scott, do you have
Okay,
any?
they both hear it. And if it's an APRS formatted packet, APRS will, put a pin on a map or whatever.
Right.
And if it's something that WinLink knows how to deal with, WinLink Express will take it, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
There's no
Okay.
contention. There's no contention because it's running a TCP/IP port. It's running in KISS mode, so it's just asking the TCP/IP. So there's no serial confusion.
Yeah, and even
Okay.
more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, even more to that, each application signs in with Sound Modem and is looking for specific traffic to that call sign. So if there's two different call signs involved, Sound Modem will figure it out and send the information to the right place.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And have you had any success in using a USB GPS with Pinpoint APRS?
Yes, it works super easy. In fact, we've got these $14, right, Jeff? You tried that too.
Yeah, I have one of
$14
those
GPS
things.
dongle. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have one of those things. It's great. You plug it in, and Pinpoint APRS will read it. The WinLink also has a position reporting system, which will show up on the winlink.org map. It'll read directly there as well. So the only issue I've had is that if you're inside of a building, you may not get a GPS signal. But as long as you get close to a window or move outside briefly, you'll pick up a signal, and then you can grab that location and either beacon it through APRS or upload it to the winlink.org user map.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah,
It's $14 and works really well. Go ahead. Hold on. We had Doug, I interrupted you. Go ahead, Doug. And then we had another comment.
Yeah, I found in my junk box a Microsoft USB GPS from probably 15 years ago, and it didn't work, but maybe I should pop for $14 in the new one.
It's worth it.
The comment?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, on your WinLink APRS position reporting, WinLink will not only put it on their webpage WinLink map for positioning, it also ports it immediately to the APRS network, so you can go to APRS FI and find it.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. That's a very good point. And that has been part of our exercises in the past, and that's a whole lot of fun to play around with this. But I think at this point, just let me show you real quick. My KM6KQ actually picked up all his WinLink messages right now through KD6PYD. So it does work. We've proven that it works and it can be made to work. So thank you so much, Keith, for being the relay station for this. This is excellent. Mike, you had another comment?
Yeah, with APRS FI and WinLink, your position report is going to be your base call sign that you have WinLink Express set up for. So if it's K6 OLI, that's what APRS reported. If you have a K6 OLI-1, that's what it will report. But if you have a tactical address that you're trying to send and using your Express, you will not port the tactical address. You have to put that in the comments.
That's a great point. Comments, use them liberally, because every comment that you add adds information, especially on APRS. And by the way, let me show you this right now. As people re-beaconed, can you see how all of a sudden those 5s are showing up? And, so it gives you a really quick overview over, essentially it's ReadyNet on APRS. Simple tools, smart operators, that's the key to success as far as I'm concerned. Are there any other questions about this? Anything we can clarify while I've got the screen still up? If not, I'll stop the screen share. Questions? Raise your hand or.
Oliver, can you send out can you send out a link to the $14 GPS device and an email or something?
Yeah, we'll do a little summary link with the links from Mike's fantastic presentation, and probably add a couple of links on the IC7300 and the MCOM 2, the Chameleon MCOM 2. But we'll make sure that you get that information.
Yeah, I'd
There
love
was
to.
also
I'd
a
love to
question
have a
earlier.
GPS that works. It's cheap.
Okay, I was just going to say there were some questions earlier about getting equipment lists from Mike, and I don't want to promise for you, Mike, but if you're willing, there are people who are interested in seeing the equipment list.
Well, Mike already sent me an equipment list, and Mike, if that's okay, I'll put it up on the group's IO. What do you think? The one you sent yesterday for the gateways. We can talk about this off air too, but we can make sure that some of the equipment is listed. Is that okay? Click yes if you like that.
I think Mike. Mike.
You talking to me, Mike, or another Mike?
Oh, sorry.
Mike
or
from
which one?
Baja.
Baja.
He might have just stepped away.
Okay. All right. But is this all pretty clear right now? And by the way, you can always clear the map and clear all the stations out. Bam, they're gone, and start over. And that as people rebeacon, they can certainly do that. All right. I think this was really straightforward, but there are probably lots of questions people have. We'll give you plenty of opportunity to try this out in the coming weeks and months.